Hello, Slumpbusters. It's your host, Judy Talk Sports, and I'm here to bring you episode 73 of the Slumpbuster Podcast. Been a minute since we posted an episode, but we're back at it, and I am happy to introduce the show with a new sponsor. That is going to be Nature's Relief. Now, Nature's Relief, the new kid on the block, they are a company that believes in providing relief the natural way through safe, high-quality products. You've probably heard a lot about CBD companies in recent years. Well, I think I found the best. A little company based out here in the heart of Texas. Each one of their products is great for anxiety, pain, depression, sleep disorders. Whatever you're struggling with, Nature's Relief believes they have the way to get through it. And we have the promo code that's going to save you on tons of great products from them. That is going to be promo code SLUMP to save 10% off. Now, let's talk about a sponsor we've had since the beginning. That is going to be Manscaped.com. When I talk about great products, I'm talking about the Lawnmower 3.0. I'm talking about the Perfect Package 2.0. I'm talking about the anti-chafing boxer briefs, the crop preserver. All these great products can be had by you if you just use promo code SLUMP to save 20% off plus free shipping and handling at Manscaped.com. That's promo code SLUMP at Manscaped.com. You want to know where else you can use promo code SLUMP? Caveman Coffee Co., a company based out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. You want to know what also comes out of Albuquerque, New Mexico? Your host, Juju Talk Sports. Great things come from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Now, let me tell you about the best cold brew coffee on the market. I'm talking about Caveman Coffee Co. How many times can I say Caveman Coffee Co. in a sentence? But on the road, guys, they do have pumpkin spice. They got the nitro cold brew. They have their mammoth brew coffee. All great ways to start your morning. And our last sponsor. Let's add some more green to your pocketbook, and that is by beating Vegas. Check out razorsport.com, R-A-Z-R sport.com. It's not often that you have the tools to beat Vegas, especially with their lines, all these tough competitive games going on in the NFL, NBA, MLB, you name your sport. Well, Razor has what it takes. They have a diverse crew of bettors and handicappers that know exactly the way the Vegas thinks. So go ahead and check out Razorsport, R-A-Z-R sport.com. Okay, guys, we have a great show lined up for you. We have the guys from the High Score 510 podcast. Enjoyed my time talking with them. They are a fun group of guys, and I think you will too. So go ahead, check it out. Enjoy the episode. Hashtag Bust the Slump.
Quiet on the set. Make sure my mic is on. There is Dre and Juju, dog, diving towards the pylon. Go for two, so damn rude. Recognize authority. Spitting tips for fantasy. No way you're outscoring me. Bold predictions with conviction every single day. Sports addiction, no restriction. Kicking game like Pele. He's the greatest. What's the basis? Pick an athlete. Let's debate this game. Outrageous trading places. Sudden death. Take 10 paces. Turn and shoot. Boys the truth. Mamba mentality. Future greats take their place. Dreams become reality. Low and outside, knocked it out the park. Your boy discovered fire like a rock with a spark. Refs acting like Neanderthals. Phantom flags, nothing calls. Heartbreak losses, tragic falls. Every week discuss it all. Settle in, listen up. Free your time like Andrew Luck. Show's about to start. I suggest you buckle up.
Welcome in, guys. This is Slumpbuster, episode 73. I am happy to announce that our guest, someone we've been following on Instagram for a long time, and they're finally here. The High Score 510 podcast, loaded group here today, so I'm going to allow each one of these gentlemen to chime in. That way, as the listener, you can know who's talking when we're talking, because there might be a little talking over each other with these heated debates we got coming up here. So, Coach, you want to start us off here on the introduction?
Yeah, sure. My name is Jarrett, a.k.a. DJarTT. The D is silent, so it's just Jart.
Well, my name is Grayson III, also known as AG3.
Hey, what's going on? It's Brandon, a.k.a. Taco Pablo. Happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have all three of you gentlemen. Now, tell me, High Score 510, how long have you guys been doing it? Like, how's the pod life treating you?
It's going pretty well. It's has its ups and downs, you know, in any creative venture and trying to expand and grow. But we've been doing it for better part of 3.5 years now. Started early 2017.
I'll say the first 3 weeks never got posted because we didn't know how to get it online. But we've grown a lot since then.
We've grown a lot since the days of using one mic. We used to have one mic in the center, and there'll be 4 of us talking into it.
Yeah, we did a pilot episode.
And then Jarrett introduced his sound bites with an iPad, and from there that was why we grew into more mics to be able to control his sound bites. We thought if we hook it up to a mixer, we'd be able to mute it when we needed to. That was the start of our growing.
Yeah.
So you guys got like your own little studio, or have you actually not minded the Zoom madness? At least, allows you guys to all be set up in your own little base here with your mic.
Zoom has been amazing.
Yeah, Zoom has made it a lot easier. For some reason, these guys don't like to record less than 3 hours. So I always got to try to get them out of the studio.
Yes, we do. We like to record and be done. Jarrett doesn't. Jarrett wakes up late. He's like one of those people that wake up at like 2 o'clock. Like sorry. No, I muted myself because I'm battling the hiccups for the 4th time in 24 hours, my ad. Jarrett likes to just keep talking and talking and talking and going on and just wasting time sometimes.
Right. It happens.
It is an art form figuring out how to like cut down on a podcast. When we first started ours, I swear these were the longest episodes, like 2.5, 2 hours and everything like that. We're just like, oh my God, is it each subject takes forever? Or it's just, you gotta find that flow and figure out what works. And thankfully
we did 2.5 hours last Sunday, and me and Brandon were celebrating. We're like, man, I got the rest of my day to look forward to.
Let's just say,
and let's say that Jarrett wasn't there last Sunday. Let me tell you that. So that explains it.
The reason for sound.
Right. You ever have somebody over at your house and they don't have nothing to do till like 8 p.m.? Like, they're staying at your house till like 7:45. That's how Jarrett treats the podcast. Like, I have something to do at 5. No, I'm willing to just hang out till it's time.
Yeah, I'm gonna hang out until y'all ask me to. But it's been a pretty cool journey, and the Zoom hasn't been too difficult. It's actually made it to where we've been able to be more flexible and get more of ourselves on consistently. For a long time, we were meeting in person, and we had like a little studio set up, soundproofed as best as we could, and it worked pretty well. But it also made it was a little bit harder to get each other on at the same time as often. So the Zoom has actually made it a little more flexible and easy for us to all be here.
And tell me, how tough is it being in the Bay Area right now? Because I know, as a Niners fan, I've been following. So Governor Gavin Newsom recently put it out there that fans can go in attendance. However, Santa Clara was quick to say, no, we're not going to allow that. Have the lockdowns still been kind of tough out there, or where has things changed since March, I guess?
Well, if the lake, shout out to Lake Merritt sponsorship. That's our local lake, man-made. But if the lake's any indication, the restrictions are definitely way more relaxed. I'll say that, because there's a lot of people out, congregating, barbecuing, celebrating life at the lake, which is good and problematic at the same time. But I think they've been pretty slow to open things up, like officially, but people are still gonna, try and make their thing. So hearing Santa Clara say that they're not gonna allow fans isn't a surprise in any bit, but it's been a lot of people kind of slowly starting to get outside dining. It's been popping up a lot more in the last couple months, and people are out trying to just live their life as best as possible, still wearing masks and trying to be responsible. But a lot of people are starting to get out a lot more in the last couple months.
Do you think not allowing fans has hurt like the California teams or teams that are in more restrictive areas? Because I have seen certain stadiums in which the fans have been allowed. I don't know, the team seems like they got more juice going with them.
Yeah, I think it definitely does help, especially like, for example, the NBA bubble. I said in our show before the bubble started, we gave our predictions. And one of my predictions was the younger, more like rookie players will play better during the bubble and even in playoff time, because there's basically no road games, right? But the basketball was still high end in the bubble. So not having fans as far as like football games, it take away kind of the home field advantage, right? You talk about, especially like there's a place like Seattle, it means a lot. A place like San Francisco gets loud when it's full, and they're having the consent. KC, I mean, I think having a few fans there is enough to get the players juice, but then you don't get the noise you get in football that you normally get.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So, I mean, like, whenever I was, like, scouting you guys out to bring you on the pod, like, definitely your bio caught my eye. Sports side, cannabis and comedy. So, you guys obviously funny guys. Obviously love the sports. And it's actually kind of appropriate that you're actually on. So, speaking of sponsorships, too, like our brand new sponsor, Nature's Relief, if you're into CBD companies, sponsoring the show. So, shout out to them. Great stuff. It does kind of like make me want to actually revive one of my favorite topics we've done on the show before. And it was basically favorite all-time stoner athlete. Whoever wants to take the mantle here, there's tons of great options. Mine personally is going to be Tim Lincecum, San Francisco Giants fan. Tim smoked back in the day in the Bay was like a great t-shirt motto. I'll leave it up to you guys.
So, do we just choose one? Because I feel like mine's is rotating on a rotating basis.
You can.
So right now, For today, well, Sam Perkins was always one of my favorite. Sam Perkins, the person who looked the highest while playing. He was always one of my favorite. But I'm going to have to go with this guy right here. It's the only Laker jersey. I'm actually from LA, so I'm a big Laker fan. The only Laker jersey I own is this one, an Isaiah Ryder Laker jersey. The guy didn't play a minute in the playoffs or anything. He got a ring. My favorite story is him being in the Bay Area when he got, when the time is in Portland and he got caught on the side of the road smoking out of a dented up Coke can. And the funny thing about it, me and our friends we couldn't understand it because we've seen that man several times walking down Telegraph Avenue in Berkeley where there's like 5 smoke shops on a 3-block radius. 5 smoke shops. I seen him walking down the street. It's like, just buy yourself a pipe. Why are you smoking out a dented up Coke can? You got too much money. And the craziest thing is he moved to Berkeley after he stopped playing.
He out here?
Yeah, now he's in Arizona.
Okay.
But back then he was living in Berkeley Hills. Probably still smoking out of a dented up can. Maybe it was like Agua Fresca or something this time. He moved. He got high class.
He's got one of them with those like the Japanese beverages have that real dense
the dense can that you can't bend. Yeah, he probably smoking out of that or
coconut waters
or LaCroix or something like that.
That's ridiculous.
What about you, Brandon? Brandon, I'll let you go.
Oh, you know what?
Hold on, Brandon. Before you say anything, just want to let you guys know Jarrett is not hosting the show. So
my bad. I just want to
any of his questions. I just want to give you a warning real quick.
Hey, we can share, Julian, in the interest of busting the slump,
you gotta stop him right away.
I'll keep an eye out for the tangent.
Once he starts going, it's kind of.
Yeah. Charlie Murphy said it best. I'm a habitual line crosser, line stepper.
My favorite Stone athlete, I'd probably say Ricky Williams. I feel like he's the one that definitely brought it more mainstream. We know athletes were getting high back in the day, but he was the one that said, "No, I really just I want to be high, and I want to tell you about it."
You're talking about the man that got so high he forgot he wasn't supposed to get high for his drug test. That man.
That guy. That guy.
And you know what? He was also one of the very first spokespersons for mental health with men and anxiety, which we're shouting out. Who was it recently? He was talking about anxiety. Dak Prescott. Damn it! I didn't want to bring it up. I didn't want to bring that up. Now my heart hurts. But Ricky Williams talked about that was his self-medication for his social anxiety and whatnot. So. Shout out to Ricky Williams. I like that one, Brandon. For me, Ricky.
I mean, he actually follows our page, and it's funny. Actually, the reason he follows our page is because we tagged him once in a meme about. I think it was exactly that meme about him forgetting to not smoke prior to his test, and he liked and followed. I'm like, shout out to you, Ricky. He actually lives in Austin too. So.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
Hey, bring up when he lost his running in elementary for class president to Megan. Megan was a former roommate of mine who he mentioned in his Heisman speech because he said this is the first thing he still remembers losing to her for class president.
Motivation, whatever gets you through the day. All right, we got one last person here. Come on.
Mine is D'Angelo Russell because he just let you into a lens of the pure ignorance of contemporary athletes and their inability to just be sly or sneaky about anything. I'm gonna bring it in the soda can through an airport. I'm gonna record my teammate about cheating on his famous girlfriend. Like he just knows how to give you a lens into the real dirt that goes on in the NBA circles. The second place team would be the Jailblazers to me, primarily Damon Stoudemire with having it in a tinfoil trying to go to the airport. So, but yeah, Damon Stoudemire, Jailblazers / D'Angelo Russell.
But D'Angelo Russell had the fake Arizona can. Yeah. It was a fake that he's trying to take on the plane.
Hey, man, can I bring this liquid on the plane?
Yeah, can I bring a liquid on the plane? Like, you can bring a liquid on the plane. That's the worst thing. Right? They weren't going to let you bring a regular Arizona on. So
it's duty-free. Anyways, yeah. So
I'm kind of actually surprised. None of you guys. So coming from the Bay, then no one dropped Klay Thompson and the Warriors. Because Smokey Bear, man, you gotta give a shout out to Smokey Bear. His Game 6 performance in the Western Conference Finals a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't surprise me if he lit one up right before game time that day.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised either.
I'm just more interested in the next IG model he's dating because he be picking them well.
Didn't he turn down Abigail Rashford once? I don't remember what the entire story was, but it just for context.
Yeah, it was some crazy story. Yeah, he turned it down because of something. Like he had to walk his dog. Or I don't know, some crazy ass shit like that. I remember. Well, you're right. It was. Because it shocked me. I remember being shocked by that.
As someone who opens up IG every time and it's an Abigail Rashford photo, I'm like, how? how
Does not
how does
compute.
IG just always know just to put like that to the top of my newsfeed? Like, come on.
Oh, yeah. Aaron doesn't realize like Instagram has access to your photos, and so they know even if you didn't like the photo or save the photo, they know you stopped at it, and they know you got a new picture in your phone and you didn't open your camera.
Oh, what are you talking about?
They
Like, let me tell you, yeah, they know. They know when you screenshot it. They know that. Like when this man got more screenshot, he got 30 gigs worth of screenshot. No wonder why he got a 500 gig phone.
This actually brings me to an interesting topic. So obviously getting the mindset of like doing this podcast and knowing the type of topic we're going to talk about. I just happened to pop at Edible a couple nights ago, put me on a weird trip. Honestly, when you're looking at Ben Roethlisberger highlights at 2 a.m. in the morning,
wow,
you just have questions. And I don't know, like I just had this random topic pop up in my mind, and I just wanted to throw it out there, you guys. You probably also saw it on my IG story or the Slumpbuster IG story recently. I had two guys talking about like Ben Roethlisberger versus Drew Brees in their historical rank, and I just wanted to throw this out there: Ben Roethlisberger versus Drew Brees. Who's the better QB there?
Are we just talking about QB or are we talking about raping women? Because one of them's
I think you
which
have to
one
take
are we
the whole package here.
Does that fit in? Does that fit in? Does that factor in? I mean,
Hey, but
like,
one more man
do
for,
I-
hey, one
Allegedly.
more Pledge Allegiance.
I don't think he actually got to the whole rape part though. I think he
all right, an assault, an assault.
It was some real
Sexual
Brett
assault.
Kavanaugh. It was the Brett Kavanaugh situation.
I like beer.
Like he
Like
could
if I had 10 more minutes or a moment of clarity, you know, if I didn't take that sip of water between these last 3 pints, then
If
I
other women from the restaurant bar didn't walk in.
then walk into a women's restroom. So are we talking about football only or off the field too? That's my question.
I'm sorry.
You have to
Julian.
take in their entire career. Like we're talking about both these guys. You have a Hall of Fame vote to share between the both of them, and
I can only give one. I like how you frame that. I like how you frame that. I'm gonna go with Drew Brees.
okay, Drew, he's got the records. I would say what made it interesting when I was thinking about this in my head, I'm like, Big Ben, he does have those 2 rings, and he does have numbers. He doesn't have Drew Brees' numbers, but he has some pretty damn good numbers on some winning teams. I mean, Drew Brees' teams, they've been good, and there was those years where his defense was so bad, and the Saints missed the playoffs multiple years with him. And that's kind of like what knocked him down in my mind. I'm like, in 10 years, who am I going to look back at and like think, who was the better QB here?
Well, I looked at it like this. Drew Brees had to he brought a dysfunctional franchise into relevance, right? Dysfunctional for a career franchise. New Orleans was dysfunctional, where even the older Manning statesmen couldn't do anything there with all the fanfare. Drew Brees came in, and of course, with the coach, brought stability. Ben Roethlisberger was part of probably one of the greatest franchises in all of pro sports, with stability, with making right moves. I mean, if you think about it, since 1970, was it 1970 or 1968? They've only had 3 coaches. They went from Chuck Noll to Bill Cowher to Mike Tomlin. They've only had 3 coaches in the same family ownership, who also part of the family's dope actresses, Rooney Mara and her sister, I can't remember her name, but you know, Rooney Mara, that's his name after Art Rooney. And so, yes, just a stable franchise forever, the Steelers. And for me, Roethlisberger, yeah, he got the extra ring, but part of that was because of stability. That was his second year in the league. The team kind of carried. He did well. He did his part, but the team was dope too.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of put Drew Brees just a little ahead.
Okay, in their primes, which QB would you rather have? Because I would say 2. Ben Roethlisberger does things that Drew Brees can't. Drew Brees is definitely the more accurate quarterback by a wide mile, but he never quite had Big Ben's arm. Big Ben having to play in outdoors, AFC North year after year, go to battles with the Cincinnati Bengals when they were good, or the Baltimore Ravens when they were good. And then Drew Brees, on the other hand, anytime he's played outside of a dome, he's looked like a pretty pedestrian QB. Do you guys factor that into this argument at all?
If I had to take one quarterback for like one game championship, it's like, you know, you got to take it. It's hard to say, but I might take Ben Roethlisberger, especially depending on the opponent, because if I know I have a quarterback that's bigger, he can see over the line better, he can scramble and extend plays longer, then I think I would take Ben Roethlisberger, because we know that like Drew Brees can be affected by a good front four and a good, you know, pressure pass rush, especially up the middle, just like most any quarterbacks will. So and he's great in the pocket. He has great footwork, able to extend plays himself, and very accurate. But if I needed a player who could make big time crunch time plays, I've seen Ben Roethlisberger make probably just as many as Drew Brees. So I take Ben Roethlisberger because I feel like he would give me the best shot all the way to the end of the game versus Drew Brees. I've seen him also kind of, just be put out of a game and have to be coming back, and it doesn't look the same.
But you're forgetting the fact that Ben Roethlisberger might have threw them into that reason they backed down in that game.
True.
I think both of those guys have actually had their moments in which they've put their team behind via turnovers. I've definitely seen a bad game from Drew Brees where he can't keep it out of the opposing team's jersey. For as accurate a QB as he is, there was some bad picks. We've been looking at his career in recent years. Whenever he starts to trail off towards the end in the playoffs, he's been making some bad decisions with the ball. It's just interesting. It was an argument that kind of came up because I'm like, this age of QB is starting to come towards its end. Obviously, we talked so much about Brady, Manning, but that second tier of guys, I was just like, where are those arguments going to be there? Philip Rivers, Eli Manning, these guys are on their way out too. And I don't know, it's just interesting to kind of appreciate them in the moment here, guys. Well, let's talk about another sport that needs some appreciation. So baseball doesn't get a lot of love on sports podcasts at all. Well, it's World Series time, so we have to finally give in. We got to talk about them. So as guys coming from the Bay, I know that we have one Dodgers fan here, but right. So with that said, I just got to know where everyone's loyalties are lying. They obviously went up and won game 1, 8-3, dominating performance by the Dodgers offense. Mookie Betts turns out to be a great trade decision by them. How's everyone feeling after last night's World Series game 1?
I'm feeling good. I feel like the Dodgers are they're the best team. They've been the best team for the last couple of years, especially how their roster is constructed. If Kershaw just finds a way to be the ace, I feel like I don't see a reason why they will drop a game. Yeah, I think they have the hitting, they have the pitching, they have the fielding. I think it's basically much like it's just going to be a very LA-centric championships season.
Hey, underappreciated, but don't sleep on Tampa. They did win the Stanley Cup here a couple weeks ago, too.
I told people that. I said one of these teams, one of these cities are going to have 2 titles. It's either going to be LA or Tampa.
I know LA's got the more restrictions going on, but I feel as though if they did win the World Series, too, they got to do some joint parade or something with both the Lakers and the Dodgers. Similarly to, I think, the Rays and the Lightning should have something. And then at Tampa, they also got Tom Brady. I'm sorry I'm going on a tangent here, but the point is, Tampa's an interesting title town in the U.S. right now.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, they have their hat in the game.
Yeah, but LA's not in trouble of the Rams winning the Super Bowl this year, though. So they could just go ahead and have that parade next week.
Right about that. They got to win this. The only way we can win 2 titles. Tampa's still in play if they lose. If the Rays lose, Tampa's still in play to get 2 titles. There is no – if you got to count on – I still consider the Chargers San Diego. If they win the title, I'm still giving it to San Diego. If you got to count on the Rams this year – no, the Dodgers have to win it. No, I'm trying to have 1988 dreams of when the Lakers and Dodgers both won.
Because Sean McVay Mike D'Antoni'd himself. I've been saying it. He Mike D'Antoni'd himself. He wanted all the credit, and he wanted Jared Goff not to develop as a pro quarterback. He wanted to be able to call in at the 11-second mark up until they turn off the microphones and tell him where to throw the ball. And it got him to the Super Bowl that year, but then the next year you saw him regress, and he still hasn't progressed since then. And so, Sean McVay, you a genius, but you also a helicopter parent.
That ain't got nothing to do with the Dodgers, Jarrett.
The Dodgers. Hey, the Dodgers look good. Kershaw looks like he might be over that ghost of playoff pass. And they got 2 other potential ace caliber talents in Urias and Beeler. So they have the arms. And so, yeah, I think the Dodgers with Mookie Betts, man, Mookie Betts has a certain pedigree. You know, he went to Boston young, got them a title, left, came to Dodgers, solidified their lineup and has been just making plays for them and just being a constant producer, whether it's hitting a double, hitting a home run, making a play in the outfield. He's kind of leading the way, and I think he's taking a lot of pressure off all those other Dodger players who are guys who are maybe playing a little over their heads in past years, and the pressure, I think, got to them, and they kind of went into a shell in those World Series. So
I think in baseball, rather than any other sport, like having confidence, having a real confident, accomplished player is going to push you over the edge for other players, right? It's going to influence everybody else a lot better. Just because Mookie Betts can only hit for Mookie Betts, but his confidence can infect the team and really just get them playing on all cylinders. Even when he's not up to bat, he can definitely support them for sure.
Well, the Dodgers should feel a need to be confident because, I mean, let's face it, this is their 3rd World Series appearance in 4 years. And I've always said with the Dodgers, that if you keep putting yourself in a position to win one, eventually you're going to win one. So myself as a Giants fan, I'm going to have to eat that L this year and watch them take home a title. But I will still say this, 3-1 over the last decade. Just throwing that out there. Just have to let the numbers be where they are.
You know what's funny? So as a Dodger fan, I always struggle being up here. This is the one sport I struggle with, right? Is baseball being up here. And not because of A's fans. I live in Oakland. A's fans are great. Most A fans I run into are like Dodger fans, right? You got a big LA to Bay Area pipeline for colleges, people going back and forth. So you'll find a lot of friends of mine are Dodger fans, move out here. They go to A's games wearing A's gear, right? Number one Dodger fans, but still support the A's. But the Giants fans, not even close. And the thing that hurts me is like when the Giants won that first title, I was super juiced. I was like, Jarrett knows, Brandon knows. I'm one of those people that I believe in parity in sports, right? I believe every city should have the feeling that I feel when my teams win. I want everyone to have that feeling. So when the Giants won, I was super juiced. When they won the 2 other times, I wasn't as juiced because I was like, especially when they won as a wild card, I don't really like the wild card too much. I don't like mediocre hot teams getting in and winning it like the last 2 Giants titles, but I let them have it. I'm like, okay, yeah, they won it. Period, right? Every time I run into a Giants fan or they see me wearing a Dodger hat or something, it's just like, man, you guys gonna blow it anyway. And I'm like, one, I don't know why you say you guys. I never say you guys. One, because I ain't getting no paycheck for them. Ain't no you guys. I'm a fan, right? You guys gonna blow it anyway. You lose your ass and start. And I'm like, dude, where's all the hostility coming on? Who the fuck care, man? You ain't getting paid. I ain't getting paid.
I think as far as that guy goes, at least in the early part of the 2010s there with Giants fans, obviously the Dodgers were loading up the payroll. They were getting all these big-time free agents, making these big-time trades and moves. And as a Giants fan, it was always the little guy versus the big guy there.
The Giants make just as much money.
Now, after 3 World Series titles later, they definitely did pull in their thing. Obviously, Brian Evans, all them, they got that right ownership group to build around that stadium. And now they're just pulling in the cash and real estate. So
yeah, they make just as much. And here's the crazy thing that a lot of people don't know about the Dodgers is that they actually have the most homegrown players. Mm-hmm. They always have. They've always developed their own talent. They'll spend money on their own talent. They might rent a player every now and then like they did with the Machado situation, but they usually don't spend a lot of money outside on free agents. The Mookie Betts was shocking. It was really shocking. My dad has been really skeptical and liking Mookie Betts, even as an African-American, right? Because he didn't think he would be around. And then after he signed, he was shocked, like mouth on the floor shocked. I was too. Like, this is not what the Dodgers normally do. And then spend this much money. They spend money on their homegrown players. So I know there's always a lot of Bay Area hate and Giant hate and Warrior hate and all that for LA. And I can understand why. When you're the little brother city in the state, it makes sense.
Oh, shots fired, just thrown in there. But listen, you're right. And that's the key to baseball in general. Homegrown talent, I think, is really how you win titles. Look at the Phillies. They're a great example. They went out, they got Bryce Harper, they got all these guys, Didi Gregorius, and nada. They didn't even make the playoffs this year in an expanded playoff.
In a year where anybody can make the playoffs, where teams with loser records make the playoffs.
The Miami Marlins were in this team. The Astros, give them a little credit, they were under 500, made it back into the playoffs, and almost damn near made it to the World Series. Now, I'm not going to lie. There's a part of me that was like, 2020 really just deserves the Astros to win the World Series, don't they? Like, wouldn't that have just been the perfect thing? I actually put out a tweet this week, and Carlos Carrera retweeted it. It's woke up as 113 K. It's crazy how social media algorithms work like that, to be honest. But man, so rest of the series here, guys. Where are we leaning? How do we expect this series to play out? I mean,
7 games. I still think it's going 7 games. Dodgers in 7. Dodgers in 6 or 7, maybe 7. I would like to see 7. That game last night was very entertaining. I was very entertained. And what made it entertaining was you didn't have the usual swing as hard as you can, strike out, or home run. Dodgers stole 3 bases in the inning where they took the lead and busted open. That's different. That's something I haven't seen in a long time in baseball. That's what made the game interesting. The fact that we had play on the bases. We had pickoffs, attempted pickoffs. We had base running. We had hit and running. We had those things. We had fake bunts or trying to bunt. It's just something that's lost in baseball, and that's what makes it more enjoyable to watch. So I'm hoping Dodgers win it, of course. I wouldn't mind it going 7 just because it's been enjoyable.
I don't think it goes that far. I think at most 5 games, Dodgers take it.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers coming back from 3-1 They have the momentum. They have everything that they need to like come in here and maybe not sweep, but like 5 games, like Brandon said, or maybe potentially sweep. I kind of hope it goes like 6 or 7 so people can see this, like Aaron was saying, the small ball style baseball, more traditional style baseball, because, you know, something we've talked about on our show is how baseball, I think, is kind of killing itself by going solely on sabermetrics, and how baseball is too overly dependent on its statistics-based, decision-making, to where now you're not seeing the diversity in playing styles or player types, and you're starting to get all just like one-dimensional players who all, if you can't hit 25 home runs, you won't make it to the league. You can be a great fielder, you can be a great contact hitter, you can be a speed person who can steal bases, but we don't do that anymore. We don't need to do that.
You can strike out 100 and something times as long as you got 25 home runs.
Yeah, as long as your backspin on that swing, you get that backspin rate is correct, then you could play in the league. And
the world with baseball and basketball would be in better places if somehow H.G. Wells was correct and we could go back in time and just give Billy Bean and Daryl Morey a job doing something else. Give them a job in some accounting firm. Have them working for HR. Yeah, give them a job at HR Block doing taxes.
No. Help them stimulate the economy. Go work for Ford Motors so we don't have to get bailed out no more.
Exactly. Do that because they ruined 2 sports with their sabermetrics.
But I think sabermetrics have their place, right? I think data, like being able to have the ability to be objective about a player is like super important. That's what GMs used to be. But like you get so emotional about a player, like I'm just going to put him out there one more time and he's about to mess this up right now. But like really looking at numbers and trends, like I think it's definitely helped a lot of players stay in the league longer and definitely giving coaches a lot more leeway of like switching out players or whatnot. Otherwise, like it becomes this big ego game. Like, oh, you can't take out this player because he's been here for 5 years or something else like that. Like really just looking at the numbers. You can't say Daryl Morey and Billy Bean haven't been successful. Like with the A's rosters, number one, the A's the A's salary base. And
Tampa Bay makes less money, and they in their second World Series, brother.
It's one thing. Like everybody has different situations, but like to have the A's like be consistently in the playoffs, be consistent at the top end of the division, like that's an accomplishment in itself.
Consistently what, Jarrett? What are the A's? Consistently what?
Consistently, as Richard Sherman said about Michael Crabtree in the end zone, mediocre.
Consistently mediocre, making the playoffs. And I'm so happy that Daryl Morey died this past week.
He didn't die. Right?
He didn't. Yeah.
He didn't die because he's ruined the game. I love basketball with his sabermetrics. I wish he would have died, and I would bury him next to wherever Hitler's buried.
You know what? Okay, and that's a topic that I forgot even happened this week. We will get into that. I will close it out by saying here, Dodgers in 6. Sorry. And I do agree with you guys on the fact that baseball has driven more towards sabermetrics. It's hurt the ability to develop stars. Obviously, when you're doing more platoons, when you're bringing in people like for closers, spot innings, all this stuff, it's diluted the game so much, or players aren't allowed to show what makes them a superstar to the same ability unless you have a 5-star player like a Mookie Betts, and that's why I foresee the Dodgers winning. Now, moving on, I did want to touch on that Daryl Morey topic. So Daryl Morey, obviously no longer with the Houston Rockets. And I have had an appreciation for Daryl in the sense, I feel like he's built good, successful teams so many different ways. Obviously, whether it be with Dwight Howard, going out and getting Chris Paul, what they did this year with Russell. They've done a lot of unique team building exercises to make the Rockets a competitive winning franchise that, short of a Chris Paul injury a couple years ago, could have been in the NBA Finals and could have taken one home for Houston. But at the same time, as you mentioned, it keeps coming up short. I understand building around analytics, building around sabermetrics, but I feel like when that is the entire basis behind your team, sometimes it just falls short. I don't know if we have any Colin Cowherd listeners here, but of course, Manalytics is one of his big phrases. And I agree. There is certain teams that just have that dog in them that rises above what the numbers and stat sheets say. And unfortunately, the Rockets haven't really had that.
Yeah, well, they thought they could fill it with PJ Tucker.
Yeah.
I think it's this. I agree with you. And I told Brandon this on Sunday. He did a great job. And where sabermetrics come in and him using the numbers were greatest for when he built the team around Yao Ming when he first got there and he started building the team. And they brought in Yao Ming. He brought in Shane Battier, where everyone just saw Shane Battier. I mean, he was great at seeing someone's production through the numbers, right? He brought in Shane Battier. He said, just because I saw him do a podcast with The Ringer, and he said, based on he was the best passer in the NBA at getting the ball in the post. He had the highest percentage. And no matter the angle, different angles, he could get the ball in post. So using numbers that way, I like how he values players like Shane Battier. You know, Shane Battier goes to Miami. They win win a title his first year there. Daryl Morey was great at building the teams, like you said, bringing in this player, bringing in that. The whole Harden deal. He was always great at getting, like trading away something and getting the value in the pick and then using that pick to get the players he wants. He was great, but then I'm a big believer in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and the theme of it, which is the monster you create will be the one to do you in. And his sabermetrics and his attention to detail of numbers is what did him in. I mean, he traded Clint Capella. He wanted Covington so bad this whole year. He kept talking about how he's a great player. I'm watching and I'm like, I don't see what he sees in Covington. I see a guy that's big, a little bit of a swing, but he's kind of mediocre. I mean, he's a solid player that would be in the NBA a while, but he's never going to do anything special. He just saw this fit in the team so well that he traded all his players to all the big guys he had so he could get the pick and then trade that to Minnesota so he could get Robert Covington.
Robert Covington is a really good fantasy player on a really bad 76ers team when the process was still very early on. That's what he was. Those sabermetrics don't lie, but they will lie when you overcompensate. And that's the thing. You can't just be like gut feeling head coach GM. I got a gut feeling on this guy. I got a gut feeling that guy, I like him because the way I see him do this. And then you can't be overly like, look at the numbers. It's got to be a balance. Yeah. And I think that it's just like basketball. It swung from being always a big man's game to then in the last 7-8 years being a really highly perimeter game where everyone wants more and more perimeter players with length and size to now this year with the Lakers coming in, you starting to swing.
It's going to overreact. The leagues have tendency to overreact.
Yeah,
things.
but you see it swing and it's going to end up somewhere in the middle. You want to have good quality shooting in basketball. You also want to have a presence in the middle for defense and offensive purposes, right? Offensive rebounding, putbacks, blocks, and rebounds. Same thing with baseball. You can't be just a gut coach and you can't just be the sabermetrics guy. It's got to be somewhere in the middle where what I'm saying, this guy is my best player. He's in a slump. I'm not gonna platoon him with somebody else. The A's might platoon they're one of their best players because you know what? The split stats say this guy who plays every fourth day has good numbers against righties who throw fastballs at 90 miles an hour. And so they put in this Robbie Grossman, for Lariano, who's your best defensive outfielder and potentially could be one of your best hitting outfielders. But instead, you want to go with sabermetrics instead of saying, let's find that balance and let's stick with, some consistency. Which
it's funny how the two highest sabermetric guys in two different sports are now out of a job or left their jobs this week in the same week.
Let's talk about what's next for the Houston Rockets then. In the wake of Daryl Morey leaving, should they just blow it up or what? I've heard people say, let's trade Westbrook, let's move on here. Hell, let's even look into trading Harden. Do you think this team should just kind of like keep Harden and then roll from there? Or do you think that we've kind of seen that experiment try and fail already?
I think that Harden is a good building piece as he's kind of expanded his game. He's still liability on defense, but his ability to create and pass to other people, like when he had a Clint Capella who could catch lobs for him, like I think you saw a more efficient offense. I think this year you saw a more stagnant team, which didn't have, like, it was harder to create, and they had all perimeter players on the court. So unless they get some really like dope shooters to fill those lanes for Harden, it's just putting too much pressure on Harden to carry the team completely. And when you can have that balance where you could hit it out to Eric Gordon and you could throw it out to the perimeter for somebody that you spot up shoot, but then also if you double him as he's penetrating, he could throw a lob to Capella as they used to have, then it just made it to where the defenses had a lot harder time picking their poison. Whereas now, like, everyone's perimeter, there's nobody to make them have to worry about the middle. So I would say if they can get some elite shooters, you know what I'm saying? Otherwise, yeah, they might, or get another like defensive and potential lob catcher in the middle, like they might just need to blow it up. That's where they've kind of put themselves, they pin themselves in that corner.
No, so I think a couple of things. Number one, James Harden's 31 years old, and he's not an athletic freak like LeBron James is, or like a lot of these other players. Like his ability to get around players is so slight, and so like getting to the foul line is his game. I don't think that's going to last too many more years. So I think his highest value is now. So if you're going to trade him, I would say trade him this offseason because you will get a lot more back for him. But at the same time, it's really hard to play with James Harden because he's at the line so much, because you don't really get a flow for the game. Nobody else gets to handle the ball. That's why he and Chris Paul didn't really get along so well. He's like, because Chris Paul's trying to play the offense. And he's like, well, I need the balls because I know I can get to the line. I know I can get the shot off. And so I think the number one, they should trade him. It's kind of hard to say what they'll get back for him because basically anybody who trades for him is going to have to blow up their team and their whole system to add him on. And he makes a lot of money. So it's one of those things like finding the right dance partners.
And don't forget, Brandon, he needs to go to a city that got a lot of strip clubs or he ain't going to be happy. He ain't going to be balling.
saying, him and Doc Rivers and
there's only a few
Joel
places places he could go right now. We talking about Portland, Atlanta. There's only a few places where he could go be happy.
I think you know what? I think wherever he goes, they're going to open up 3 strip clubs just for him.
Just for him. He's gonna open it up, and they're gonna be able to do probably some remodeling. A couple of kids going to college, because
like, there's a new proposition on you.
Wherever town he goes, he's like a strip club stimulus package, a walking strip club stimulus package. Wherever town James Harden gets into, you talk about they kids got a little bit of a maid. You gonna start seeing that's gonna be the best Christmas that everyone that works at those establishments have in a long time. I think just rolling in now.
Yep.
Like, Mama, you working hard? No, I ain't got to work hard. It's just happening. He's there every day.
It'd be like a weird Vice story in 2 years from now. Like James Harden stimulates the strip club market in Philadelphia.
In interviews, Daryl Morey has hinted at it. He won't say it, but he's hinted at that was one of the main factors he knew while he could go ahead and make this happen and get him to resign.
Houston, they're going to take care of you, James. Houston going to take care of you.
Daryl Morey. Out. R.I.P. As
rest in peace.
Shout out.
In peace.
Yeah, well, it's gonna be real hard for him to get another job with this whole China thing still following him around.
Oh, that's.
I forgot about that. He fucked up that.
Wait, is Mike D'Antoni still the coach?
No, he's in Philly. No, he's not in Philly. He's in where?
I don't think he signed anywhere yet.
Oh, he didn't know. Doc Rivers is in Philly.
Once Doc Rivers got fired, Philadelphia decided to go with Doc instead of D'Antoni.
Which I kind of, and this is coming from a Celtics fan perspective, with Doc, kind of overrated coach, to be honest. I'm just throwing it out there, guys. I mean, how many? He's won 3-1 leads in his coaching career.
You said it exactly.
At a certain point, when you have like as many superstars and talent as he did, and then the Celtics weren't good until we had 2 Hall of Famers to our team. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. I'm kind of.
He lost in Orlando. He never got out the first round. He never won a playoff game in Orlando. That was the craziest thing. Yeah, I was shocked when he got the Celtic job because I was like, I didn't think he did a great job.
Put him in Philly with the 7-foot Rajon Rondo, and he's going to be like back in the NBA Finals.
No, he's not getting the finals. So I think he'll get them to play together. I will give Doc Rivers this. He's great at overcoming things that are bigger than what happens to X's and O's. Like with the Clippers, he was great at handling the whole scandal with Donald Sterling and the V. Stagliano thing. He was great. Like, remember, everyone came to him, and he kind of lifted that Clipper team. They beat the Warriors that year in the playoffs. I remember Jarrett was pissed when that happened. He was like, man, this is going to galvanize the Clippers. And it did. Doc Rivers kind of became the man. He was a spokesperson. And then that's when Steve Ballmer took over, bought the team, took over, and then gave him the job, GMing. Let Doc Rivers be a GM. That was his first mistake.
Yeah. He heard a lot of credibility with the whole Austin Rivers thing.
Yes. Then he brought in his own son, for Christ's sakes, who at that time should not have been in a league or on a league of a bad team. Not on that team.
He should have been the 12th man on a bad team.
He should have been a 12th man on back in Orlando back then. It didn't make sense.
I'll say this, Doc Rivers is kind of like, he reminds me of like a slightly better X's and O's Mark Jackson, but without all the little phrases and stuff like that Mark Jackson could throw at you. So
or handing out Bibles in the locker room.
Yeah. Where he can hit you with like Mark Jackson can hit you with that little phrase, "Mama, there goes that man," like that kind of stuff. Like,
Mama called him Clay. I'm gonna call him Clay.
He can't do that, but he can give you slightly better X's and O's than what Mark Jackson would be like. It would be crunch time. Mark Jackson was there just like, so we just gonna do what we do. Y'all know how we play. Y'all the 2 greatest shooters of all time.
Yeah.
2 greatest shooters of all time. We gonna go, hey, 30 seconds left. We got to make a shot to win. You guys got this.
Mark Jackson is the Boudini Brown. He's the Boudini Brown of basketball. He's great at hyping you up. But I would give him this. He's like that great. You want him with young guys who are a little more polished, like the Warriors. Those guys were older. They were more mature when they spent time in college. So he was able to help them, get confidence in themselves and mature. Doc Rivers, as we heard with the Clippers, it sounded like he didn't even do that. Mark Jackson would not allow Kawhi Leonard to be able to bring his fiance on the plane, and all the other players were allowed to bring women, wives or anything.
Kawhi the Lou Williams situation too.
The Lou Williams lemon pepper. Doc Rivers did not handle that well. He didn't handle the players well off the court, right? He didn't handle you heard like Montrez and Pat Beverly were kind of upset because the Clippers were this scrappy team, and Doc Rivers and all of them kind of paved the way so Kawhi could come in and not practice, not play every game. And this was like a team that took the Warriors to a healthy Warrior team to 6 games the year before with a bunch of scrappy players. They're like, you're bringing in this guy and then you're rolling out the red carpet for him and you're putting up billboards to say new king of LA. And Doc Rivers did nothing. Like especially when you found out he showed up late for like they had to delay flights because he showed up late for road trips because he refused to live in LA. He wanted to live in San Diego.
I think that goes down to, in what you were talking about earlier, a little bit of culture. We're talking about culture with like Ben Roethlisberger playing on the Pittsburgh Steelers, the culture you built, or say not just bringing in a bunch of players and actually like developing your talent with the Dodgers. The Clippers are kind of a hodgepodge of characters and players that most of them haven't started their career there. And so you have a coach who's trying to like wrangle all these different personalities from different professional backgrounds coming in. I think he was overwhelmed, and it showed.
They needed Mark Jackson there. They needed Mark Jackson there passing out Bibles.
Not to mention, we severely overrated Paul George going into
playoff P.
Way off P.
Pandemic P.
Pandemic P, yep.
What'd you say, Brandon?
No, I was going to say, like, it was the first time, though, that he had a player on his team that was more important than him, right? So, like, even with the big three, like, they were all towards the tail end of their careers. Paul Pierce embraced them in Boston. But here in LA, he was the most important figure in the team, right? Because even when Chris Paul was there, Blake Griffin was there. It was Blake Griffin, Chris Paul, and Doc Rivers as the coach. But then Kawhi gets there. He's definitely the most important person there in the whole build. He's more important than GM and coach. Doc Rivers is more important than the center. He's more important than the owner in a lot of respect. And so he just sort of like took the air out of the room. And so I think Doc wanted to get fired. I think he was just like, all right, I got this.
Kawhi Leonard got them to trade all those draft picks for Paul George.
Oh, right. Boy. I'm sure that's going to feel fun in a couple of years.
Yes.
Brooklyn Nets 2.0.
Yes.
This is a message brought to you by the Foundation for a Perfect Package.
Why do I need Manscaped?
Why do I need Manscaped?
Why do I need Manscaped?
Because the only frill I want is the one up top.
Because being in a relationship is not an excuse to be lazy.
Because I like talking ball, not smelling like them.
Because deforestation is proven to prevent forest fires.
Manscaped is the only brand dedicated to below-the-waist grooming.
Manscaped's Crop Preserver guarantees that you smell your best all day long.
Manscaped Boxer Briefs are the most comfortable underwear on the market.
Manscaped's advanced skincare technology makes nicks a thing of the past.
Manscaped is the #1 in men's grooming. Subscribers get 2 free blade refills every 3 months. Get 20% off plus free shipping and handling with the promo code SLUMP at manscaped.com. That's the promo code SLUMP at manscaped.com. Get your Lawnmower 3.0 today.
We are the Slumpbusters.
And we approve this message.
I'm LeBron James. No, I'm not. But I'm the king when it comes to sports betting. Bet Razor. RazorSport.com.
All right, guys, let's get into NFL Week 7. Decent little slate coming up. A lot of home dogs going into the games. Thursday Night Football. Someone has to win this NFC East. Someone has to do it. Will it be either the Giants or the Eagles? Both these teams have the opportunity to put themselves in that position. The Eagles, we all are in agreement, should take this win. They are 4.5-point favorites via Vegas. You know, it's just kind of like surprising how poor this Eagles team has performed this year. I had this team winning 11 games when we were predicting our schedule, and now I don't even see them getting close to that. I don't even see them sniffing 7 games at this point, given what I've seen from their on-the-field product. Any thoughts on the Eagles-Giants matchup before we move on, gentlemen?
I think, the same thing that happened to the Eagles is the same thing that happened to the Saints a couple years ago, where they won the Super Bowl, and then you just start picking out these little pieces, right? You start picking out this left defensive end. You start picking out this linebacker, and the team just doesn't come together the same way. It doesn't gel the same way. So there's something funky going on there. I still think they still have a good coach. I think Wentz could be good if he's able to stay healthy, which he hasn't been able to prove just yet. But I think there's something missing in the gumbo, so to speak, especially with Philadelphia.
I know what will fix Philadelphia, guys, okay? And it's pretty simple. This week is kind of, Jason Garrett has a pretty good record against the Eagles, but as a coach, head coach, whatever. But the best remedy for the Philadelphia Eagles is to play the Dallas Cowboys. That's all they need to do. Play the Cowboys, and everything will click. Everything will be back on track, and they'll be ready to try and get to that. Maybe not 11 wins, but maybe at least 8 or 9, potentially. Potentially.
So, with that said, that's easy, smooth transition there, Jarrett. So I'm going to go ahead and move the next matchup we're going to talk about, also in the NFC East, is going to be the Cowboys at the Washington football team. In terms of this game, the Cowboys are still 1-point favorites. And I got to say, when I watched Monday night, or at least watched the highlights of the Monday night game, what disappointed me most is I had a bigger idea of what Andy Dalton was. I thought that he was going to come out there and be able to replicate this offense. I spent a ton on him in fantasy football to get him on my roster. And,
the waiver budget?
Yeah. Threw a ton on my waiver budget to get Andy Dalton on my team. And needless to say, I am slowly regretting that decision because the pieces are there. Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup.
It's been 1 week, right? Slowly? That's pretty quick. 1 week,
I would think against the Cardinals defense, they could have done something, and they didn't.
Do you think it's because you're in Texas, the reason why you had so much faith in Andy Dalton?
Well, listen, when you look at like his time in Cincinnati, there was some good Cincinnati talent there. Yeah. There really was. And even watching him in TCU, some of his highlights back there, I liked what I saw. The red rifle was a thing. I thought being in a dome, being in Dallas, warm weather, basically being in your hometown.
Been back home.
All those were the right ingredients for him to have some success there. Especially, again, the talent that the Cowboys have on offense. And again, just flat. Dead on Monday night, and that defense is absolutely atrocious. I have not seen a defense this bad, or maybe just recency bias or something, but I swear nothing. You could just walk into the end zone. Look at what happened with that Kenyon Drake score at the end.
Trying to run out the clock.
Trying to run out the clock.
They were just trying to make sure no one got hurt. And the craziest thing, if the ball wasn't stopped the play before, they would have took a knee. They had to run one more play, and they scored a touchdown.
Oh, man, I'm just going to say this. In the immortal words of former Cardinals head coach Denny Green, they are who we thought they were. Andy Dalton is who we thought he was, okay? Andy Dalton is a player who peaked early on and has never gotten past that ceiling. He had a high floor as a prospect coming into the league and a low ceiling, right? So he came in with a high floor, impressed, had A.J. Green, a world talent at receiver, a couple other decent receivers.
Gresham.
Gresham. He had some. They filled the cupboard for him on that team, and you saw that he couldn't quite get him over the hump. And at a certain point, you saw him start to regress and just slowly just plateau and slowly go downhill. And I thought maybe I had the same inkling that you had. I was like, do I pick up Andy Dalton this week and just see? Because I had Russell Wilson on bye. Do I pick him up and just throw him in there versus Cam Newton, who has missed the last 2 weeks because of COVID? And I said, let me just think about it real hard. And I realized you can't do that because Andy Dalton is who we thought he was. And he proved it on Monday night. And he's in that tier of quarterbacks who's serviceable enough to not lose you the game, but almost certainly he will never win you the game. Unless you have all the right pieces on defense in particular and just all-star running backs and receivers that can make plays for him, like make plays after the catch for him. He's not the type of quarterback that's going to put the ball down the field regularly. He's not the kind of quarterback who's going to, fit in the tight windows regularly, unless it's A.J. Green jumping over somebody and creating that, margin of error that is much greater than most other receivers can create for him. So, yeah, man, the Cowboys, they're going to lose this weekend.
They're going to lose this week. That was going to be my next question. But will they win this game? I'm going to go with them. I mean, Washington, they're not the most exciting offense. If the Cowboys can at least do the most basic thing they've been able to do this year, score, I think they should be able to put up enough to put away this Washington football team. Any disagreements between you guys?
No, I agree with you.
If Zeke needs to hold on to the ball, though, that's how I'm going to say that right now.
Yeah, if Zeke keeps fumbling the ball, how about this? Can I ask you a question, Julian?
Yeah,
should the Cowboys bench Zeke Elliott and save him one extra year of wear and tear on his body? Because I was thinking real hard about that.
I generally never go for a player is better off not playing the sport they play. That's just generally my deferment. You hear about it every year when we talk about like Le'Veon Bell. A big thing in the news this week was, of course, him signing with KC. I don't think he's ever came back. You could say whatever you like about the Jets. We have a lot to say about the Jets, but I feel as though the year off didn't do his body any more of a service because he's a little bit slower. Trent Williams is a guy who plays for the Niners this year. Trent Williams obviously took the year off because he didn't want to play in Washington anymore. And he does not look like that same dominant left tackle that he was prior to leaving. I think athletes have a certain body clock that, regardless if they play or not, that if they don't capitalize on the amount of years they have in their prime, whether it's on field or not, it's gone. It's not like you get to just store it in the bank and save it for later.
I 100% agree. And people think that all the time, like and I think with all sports, basketball too, like everyone's like, oh man, you took that year off your knees. And I'm like, you know what happens when you're still playing? Like your body's still staying in that conditioned shape. Yes, you're getting banged up. Yes, you're putting on a little more wear and tear, but you're still in that ultimate conditioning. That year off, and let's face it, I mean, you know how Curry basically took this year off. I'm not talking about like getting over an injury. I'm talking about just really, you're just like, I remember that happened to David Robinson back in the day. They wanted to get the number 1 draft pick to get Tim Duncan. He came back, played 6 games. They realized, oh, we're going to struggle. We're going to lose our high lottery pick. So they sat him the rest of the year, even though Boston still had more balls. They lost to Tim Duncan sweepstakes. And David Robinson didn't look the same after that. Everyone thought it was because Tim Duncan was there. He just didn't look the same. Like your energy level isn't there, this and that. And I think Zeke, to answer that question, just to be real quick, Zeke is one of those persons, he take a year off, you're going to see him at Krispy Kreme, right?
He going to turn into Sean Kemp?
Yeah, he going to turn into Sean. That's another case. Sean Kemp. The NBA strike. Look what it did to him in 99 with Sean Kemp, right? Same shit with Zeke. He's that person that don't need the time off.
And that's kind of like how I view as far as like players taking time off or checking out. You have to capitalize while you can, and I don't think that's just something you could store for later. Cowboys, moving on there. You're actually going against your team this week, so I guess you got negative reinforcement hope working in their way.
You know,
he always does that.
Can I put a bet in Vegas too?
Put the money where the mouth is.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go into this next one here, a little bit lighter. Not so much civil disagreement here, even though we disagreed with us on the picks here. Detroit at Atlanta. Atlanta is going to be 2.5-point favorites. They played pretty well in their first game post Dan Quinn era, but kind of what I expect. Atlanta has the talent. Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, those are guys who are still ballers. Those are guys going to be Julio Jones Hall of Fame, but Matt Ryan at least Hall of Very Good when we look back at their careers. And I knew this team is not going to be an 0-16 team. They're not going to be a 2-win team. They're probably going to be closer to 4-5 when we look at their final record. When it comes to Detroit, they have looked good coming off byes. They've looked good at points, but they just haven't been able to sustain success. They had a big win against Kyler Murray this year where they shut him down. But do I trust that coaching staff to win back-to-back games, to win on the road? No, and that's why I'm going with the Falcons. Pablo, you went ahead and took the Lions in this one. Want to tell us why?
I like Matthew Stafford a lot. He's generally that's just like one person. Like if I throw out the Sabermetrics, or his win-loss record, okay, I think he can make the throws, he can win the game. And I think Atlanta has played well, but at the same time they've only been able to cobble together 2 complete games, right? So at some point either they're gonna get down by a lot, or they're just gonna be out of it, early, or they're just gonna be a situation where they get up early and lose it late. And so just think, I like to, when I talk about football, I usually think about quarterback, coach, defense, right? Is very little to do with everything else. Is Matt Patricia a good coach? Not really, but he has the defense playing together. So I think Matt Stafford's going to pull it out for him. And Atlanta, it's one of those things when I talk about coaches getting fired in the middle of the season, you can play well for 1 week, but there's a reason why whoever took over is not the head coach in the first place, and that's going to start to show itself over the course of the rest of the season.
Yeah, it was a bit of an odd move whenever you promote your defensive coordinator and your defense is probably your biggest liability.
Well, and then you think about when Miami fired their coach and that their bench coach or whatever took over and won 1 game and then didn't win again or something like that. It happens all the time. People get that sort of jolt, oh snap, this is serious.
Well, that's when the players start thinking of that this way, he got fired, they might fire us next, so we gotta wait for that next contract here.
Yeah. Brandon, come on, man. You really think Atlanta can't get a little bit of luck? They just blew a 3-1 lead 3 days ago, right? They can't be this unlucky in sports. Yeah, they got the Eugene Robinson Super Bowl incident. They got the Georgia. Yeah, they got the 28. That's the number one. That's the worst thing, the 28-3. They also got the Georgia blowing it to Alabama. I mean, we could go down the list of just
the early 90 Braves.
The early 90 Braves. I mean, at least they got a title out of it. Since then, it's just been down. The year that they traded Dominique Wilkins for Danny Manning.
they should have won more.
Yeah, that's true.
But here's the thing about Atlanta: they're actively shopping Julio Jones. Like they're not going to play him like 100% of the snaps if they're actively thinking about trading him.
They'll win this game.
I'm
the luck of Atlanta.
Matt Patricia is such a genius. He's found laminated paper that you could still write pencil on. Okay, so if he can figure that out, if he has the chemical compound to do that, that means he gonna get his team to win this week.
I don't
Mark my words.
He has a laminated sheet and a pencil. It's like, do you expect me to be stupid and believe that you really writing on this fucking sheet? I work in a school, man. The pencil does not work on laminated paper at all. You can't, unless he's carving it into it.
He might, you know. He's got all
he's doing rubbings after he writes into it real hard, puts the indentations, and then he rubs it with the crayon and puts another piece of paper later.
That man ain't calling a play. You don't know what he's doing, and you're gonna pick him to win.
Yeah. Speaking of coaching openings, I think Detroit's going to be on the market again this year too.
I hope so.
They need it to be.
All right, let's go into this next one, guys. So we got Cleveland at Cincinnati. Cleveland 3-point favorites. We do have a little bit of a disagreement here. Jarrett, I believe you said you were going with Cincinnati in this one in the pre-show.
Yeah. Is the Hulu extraordinaire Baker Mayfield still playing quarterback?
He is. Yeah, including in 20 different commercials throughout the course of that game's actual game time.
Are there expectations on this said Hulu touting quarterback?
I think the paid sponsors agree there are some expectations.
Okay, so now they're going to lose. Because once he starts getting those expectations, they beat the Cowboys a couple weeks ago. He looked like, I might be better than mediocre. And the next week, expectations was back. What happened? You know? Expectations here. You're supposed to beat Joe Burrow. He was number 1 draft pick. Joe Burrow is still a rookie. You know, they're rebuilding over there in Cincinnati. Expectations are you're supposed to beat this in-state rival right now. What's Baker Mayfield going to do? He going to shit the bed. He going to mess up. Baker Mayfield about to get benched again. No matter how much talent he got, he going to mess it up. And Cincinnati's going to get that win, get that W.
Hey man, you need to go see your doctor if that's the way your shit sound, by the way.
It's like a duck fart. Yeah, you know what I mean? Come on. When we look at Cincinnati, we look at Cleveland. A couple weeks ago, so they played on Thursday Night Football, and Cincinnati made that a competitive game there at the end. You know, they clawed their way back in there. That was the game that a lot of people were blowing Joe Burrow after and saying this guy is going to be the next elite quarterback. And Cincinnati, throughout this course of this season, has been a competitive, scrappy team. I give them a lot of credit. Obviously, they have the tie against the Eagles. They were up 21-0, I believe, on the Colts this past weekend. The Colts, who has the number 1 scoring defense in football at this current juncture. This is a game that Cleveland should be scared about, honestly, going in against a division rival. But I still have enough faith in the talent there. I know that, of course, we do have to compensate for Baker now at this point in his career, but you have Odell, you have 2 great tackles, you have Myles Garrett, you have all the right pieces there. Cleveland, if you don't win this game, then that's going to make a very tough battle for them to even get the 7 seed in the playoffs, because the Raiders are still competing for that too. There's some fights there at just even to make the playoffs. And then you look at their division, they have the Steelers balling, they have the Ravens balling. You can't lose to Cincinnati. I think this is one where we see one of Kevin Stefanski's best play calling games, and it's going to be a lot of runs from Kareem Hunt to not put the game in Baker's hands. I'm going Cleveland. Anyone else on this one before we move on? No? All right. Cool.
Oh, Cleveland, yeah. We can just move on. Cleveland, Jarrett's crazy.
All right, let's talk about
my words.
Let's talk about Carolina at New Orleans real quick. I'm just gonna tie these in together since we actually had this topic at the beginning of the show. So Carolina at New Orleans. New Orleans are 7.5-point favorites. I think we might get Christian McCaffrey back this week. We all went in on New Orleans. Any concerns about the aging veteran that is Drew Brees? We have seen his struggles early on there. Last time we saw the Saints out there, they were struggling on Monday night. The Chargers were giving them everything they had. Bye week though, so that should help.
I think, Drew Brees lost a long time ago the ability to throw the ball down the field, right? Michael Thomas led the league with 100 and whatever million catches, it seemed like, but he also had the lowest yardage per when he received the ball. He can't attack downfield. It's the reason why when Teddy Bridgewater took over last year, they only lost 1 game, right? Like he was able to replicate everything Drew Brees could do. And so Drew Brees, even though with that, I think New Orleans still have far more talent than Carolina has on their team. And so Drew Brees, he has struggled. I think will be his swan song on his way out. I think that was the reason why New Orleans fans were so pissed when they got, with the whole pass interference versus the Rams a couple years ago, because that was really their championship opportunity shut that day. Minnesota the year before, and then that. So, but they're still a talented football team, talented enough to beat Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the other half to that debate we talked about earlier was going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, all that. Well, Big Ben, he's going to be playing in Tennessee. Now, Tennessee, they've just been rolling over opponents recently. Take away everything that was going on with the whole COVID dilemma that they came into. These last 2 wins have been so impressive against what they've done against Houston, what they did against the Bills on that Tuesday night game. I got to give it to Vrabel. I did not have any faith or trust in this team coming off the AFC Championship appearance last year. But here they are. They're undefeated. The Steelers are undefeated. I think we might have some splits here as far as who's going to go walk out with that W. I am going to go with the Steelers. I just think that the Titans have had to play a lot of tough games and some not a lot of time, and I think that's going to affect them. And yeah, I just think that the Steelers do well what needs to be done to stop the Titans. They stop the run. Who do you got to stop when it comes to the Titans? That big trailer just coming downhill that is Derrick Henry. That man's scary. I tell you, when you see him in the open field, just get out of his way.
Yeah, Josh Norman figured that out last week or whatnot. Yeah. I think Tennessee also is benefiting from the fact that nobody wants to tackle them because they all had the Rona. And they're like, man, I want to get too close to tackle this dude. He might just have to run this 40 yards down the field until he get out of bounds. But all joking aside, I do agree with you on Mike Vrabel. Last year in the playoffs, he proved that he was truly a disciple of Belichick, and more so than Matt Patricia, in the fact that I think he knows how to galvanize and connect with the players as a former player, but also he learned so much in New England that he just kind of knows the ins and out of the game. And then, Ryan Tannehill has been a revelation and a surprise for how productive he's been, especially after Miami. But that could just be the Adam Gase effect. But I'm gonna go with the Steelers because I think the Steelers are a team that's gonna continue to get better. I feel like Tennessee is at a high point, and there's a chance that they might have plateaued already and they might, start to go down just a little bit. Still think they're a playoff team, obviously, but I'm going to go with the Steelers. I agree with you. I'm going with the Steelers on this one. I think as Ben kind of gets back into the swing of things and gets more and more going, and that defense seems to be better than it has been in years for Pittsburgh. So I think they're going to give them fits, and it'll be a close game, but I feel like Pittsburgh might have the edge.
All right, Brandon, so 2 Steelers picks here. Are you going with the Titans? Are you going to split this up?
It's really tough. It's really tough. So I think the only chance the Pittsburgh Steelers have if they get up early, if they're up by 14 and the start making Tannehill throw the ball, that's their opportunity to win. But look at it. This Tennessee's been scoring a lot of points just because they have the threat of run that's opening up the receivers to get down the field. So I know before the show I was thinking Steelers, but right now, after just really thinking about it, I think Tennessee is going to go 6-0. Yeah, I just think that they have the balance on offense. Even if Tannehill's not an elite talent, they do have in that workhorse in the backfield to number one, eat up clock and keep the ball out of Ben's hands. And number two, that being successful and getting the ball in the end zone is just going to push them over the top. So I think Tennessee takes it.
All right. And looks like our fourth compatriot, AG3, had to step out briefly. So we're just going to say he went with the Titans so we can just split this vote down 2-2. All right,
is there
next.
A prize?
Yeah.
Is there a prize?
I don't know. Let's see. We'll have to think of something.
Oh, here we go.
Real quick. AG3.
Yes.
Steelers. Titans. Go.
Steelers, Titans. Steelers, they got to lose somewhere. Good team. Both of them great teams. Titans seem to be a little hot. Great coaching. And I don't know. Mika Fitzpatrick, I like the Steelers defense, but Titans, they're just running over everybody right now.
Okay. You know who's getting run over every single week? The New York Jets. They are currently 13-point dogs at home to the Buffalo Bills. And I don't think those lines are going to get any better for them moving forward. Actually, the only real debate here, because we're all going to the Bills, is should the Jets just keep Adam Gase to continue the tank? Because I think they're actually worse with Adam Gase. They just promoted someone at this point.
Man,
I think. Are they going to give up on Darnold that fast?
I think so. I mean, when you just compare the two talents, I think Trevor Lawrence is better than Sam Darnold. I mean, every physical category, I think he has way more tools to his ability. Yeah. He's more mobile, the arm's better. just has the pedigree, man. Like, if you have the opportunity to draft Trevor Lawrence, I'm sorry, Sam, but that's it. Hopefully he doesn't get mono in his first season with us.
I get you. No, I think Adam Gase has a better chance of getting another job than they have winning this game right now. I think the Bills are going there. They definitely want to win the AFC East, and they definitely want to come in there, steamroll them like everybody else.
There is one person that could change this whole dynamic, and his name is Josh Allen, and he could do some very boneheaded type things and make some
he
bad
needs like
throws.
6 fumbles.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
If he could summon the spirit of Nathan Peterman in his Bills days,
Josh Allen's problem isn't really the interceptions; it's the fumbling. It's the costly fumbling. Him trying to pitch the ball while getting tackled like an idiot. It's just idiotic times like that.
I mean, like Patrick Mahomes, but just not successful.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're saying we should throw some money on this? I mean, if we pull this money on this one and actually get it, I'm sure the payout has to be pretty damn good.
No. I ain't putting no money on this. No, the Jets definitely gonna lose.
Okay.
I'm just saying that if Nathan Peterman shows up in a Buffalo Bills uniform again and throws 5 interceptions in the first half, the Jets still might lose by only 3 points.
I mean, hey, that would win. They technically have to only be in 13 if you bet against them in Vegas right now.
Oh yeah, there we go. All right, maybe we'll have to do that.
Maybe you have to think about it.
You gotta call Las Vegas.
They'll probably just be shocked anyone's putting money on the Jets or anything, but they'll say, yeah. Please take my money.
No, I think I do agree with you. Adam Gase, man. I don't understand how he got a job. And I was listening to your last episode where you're talking about how he went from an in-division rival in Miami to the Jets. And like, at what point did you what inspired you in watching what inspired you in watching this terrible coach that you had to go against, where you had the best chance to win any games each season, and be like, we need him on our side? I was like, that's a perfect point. Like, why would you bring this guy in? He's been terrible. He had Peyton Manning as his QB, so like he got more credit than he deserved. But like, he hasn't done anything other than alienate players and make players and the team just seem dysfunctional. I don't understand why
they should just let him go after that press conference where his eyes are just darting around everywhere. They had to know they had to know this wasn't going to end well. At that point. Let's move on. That's enough Jets talk that I can handle.
Needed some of that CBD oil to calm his eyes down.
Well, do you guys know this, though? I will tell you this.
Nature's Relief. Shout out sponsorship.
I will tell you this. Adam Gase has ruined the Jets worse than they were before. Do you know which team has the most AFC conference appearances since like 2002 when the Patriots started their run? It's been the Jets. The Jets are the second most in the AFC. Patriots are the most, then the Jets. We're not talking about the Detroit Lions here, right? Like they have been in situations where they can win and won consistently. Adam Gase is just that bad.
So what I'm hearing there is bring back Rex Ryan. Let's do it.
He'll somehow draft someone who puts his hand in the dirt and not Trevor Lawrence. Because did you notice every Rex Ryan draft was like some defensive end or defensive tackle, and not usually a high end one? You're like, who is this guy?
The Jets make questionable decisions all the time, but at least with Rex Ryan, it was fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, next game up, we got the Packers at Houston, 3.5-point favorites for the Packers. They just got embarrassed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Perfect team to make a statement against. It would be Houston, given the turmoil over there. I mean, they won their first game in Bill O'Brien's absence. I am one of the few that don't think Bill O'Brien was the worst coach in the world. Probably a bad GM, of course, because given his moves. But I do think that when you have a coach that gets you to the playoffs, that's more than a lot of teams have. Clearly, we just talked about bad coaching with Adam Gase. So I do think that Green Bay, of course, is going to roll in this game because they just need it more given what happened to them the previous week. But, the players in Houston, they have a lot to prove too. I mean, Deshaun has to start proving why he's worth that contract that he got in this offseason as well. He hasn't looked anywhere near as good this season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's going to be a closer game than maybe anticipated. I think it'll probably be higher scoring because the Texans can put up some points. I think it's been an adjustment time for Deshaun Watson. With expectations balanced with losing his best receiver for aging, not as productive running back, and Brandon Cooks, who's also aging and can't stay healthy. And it went from having a big body receiver that's a safety net to having a bunch of smaller receivers who are timing route receivers. And he's been best, even at his time in Clemson when he was with Mike Williams, when he has kind of that safety net receiver who can adjust and, catch those jump balls, who can extend a play and, put it down the field. And he has confidence that he has a guy who's going to make a play on the ball for him. So I think it's just an adjustment period. But I think if the Packers are what I think they are and where I think they will be by the end of the season as a playoff and, potential Super Bowl contender, I think that the Packers will find a way to rectify last week's, trouncing by the Buccaneers.
Yeah. As long as the Packers don't have to play any smash mouth team, they do well. They're too finesse. And I got in an argument with someone this week who said, man, Seattle is this year's Packers. I'm like, no, Seattle's defense isn't good, but they will smash it they'll mix it up. They'll still smash it in there. They'll hit hard. They're not a finesse team. Packers are just a finesse, and Tom Brady and the Buccaneers just went out there and punched them in the mouth. What do you say, Brandon?
No, I think this is the point of the year where everybody starts talking about the Packers not being any good. And I think they might actually lose this game again. They might lose this game against Houston. Every year, they have this weird streak where they lose 2 or 3 games in a row. And then Aaron Rodgers said, "Hey guys, I'm still Aaron Rodgers. Let me go through 4 touchdowns real quick." And they just started piling up wins. So I think this might be that lull in the season for them where they lose another game. But I think the rest of the season, the Packers are going to be good, but I think Houston has a chance in this game.
The only reason I don't think that's going to happen is just because the teams that have given the Packers the most difficulty, as HC was mentioning, teams that are more smash mouth. I don't think the Houston necessarily has the pass rush to put the fear into Aaron Rodgers to make those poor decisions at all, or at least to just consistently throw the ball away, then try to make those bigger plays downfield. So I think with that, he should have no problem picking apart that defense. And then it's just on the Houston offense to be able to put up enough points to even compete in that style of game, which I don't think they really can do. I think last week was a little bit of an aberration for them. All right.
I think, Tampa Bay, man, that front 4 with, I don't know if Vita Vea was playing or if he's injured, but they have Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh next to each other.
Shaq Barrett.
Green Bay cannot win the line of scrimmage against anybody if it's a team that's going to challenge you on both sides of the ball at the line of scrimmage.
Oh, look what happened with them with the Niners last year. I mean, when you have Bosa, Buckner,
last year. Let's go back the last 10 years. Let's go back since Aaron Rodgers has taken over that team. What happens when Green Bay's played the
Niners are the kryptonite. I know you're happy about that.
I hate that. I know you are. I'm sorry. Just I grew up a Rams fan, so and I'm like
so you're more bitter after this last week.
So no. I'm one of those people that's very respectful. I want every team to win, like I said at some point. So at some point, I want every team to win.
I just want everybody to win.
At some point. I
might be dead, but I don't want
Detroit. I don't want Detroit fans. I never liked the fact that Boston Red Sox fans seeing interviews when I was younger of old ladies who are dying in the next 5 or so years. All I want is a World Series, and they couldn't get it, and I felt bad for them. I remember, so that's my attitude. I even want Detroit fans at some point to, win, so that way they can stop throwing rocks through the warehouse windows that are closed, right? I want them to win. So this is what I want, and so I'm sitting here I just got mad because, look, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to tell you this, Julian. I bought into the Packers ownership. One of my bucket list things was to own a professional sports team. I don't make enough money to do it, as you can see by the couch in my background. That is no way. Anybody that owns a leather couch that's getting sunburned right here, he's never going to own a sports team. So the Packers gave me an opportunity. They sold some of their stock. I bought one. So I was a little bit okay, I'll try to follow. I'll try to make them my second team. And that was with Aaron Rodgers there. And they lost to Alex Smith in the Niners. They got punched in the mouth. They lost when Mike Singletary.
Boy, Cap.
Mm-hmm. And then Cap came in, ran a naked bootlegs for just 70 yards. And I'm like, dude, they hand off the ball to old fools that can't run, and they just punch them in the mouth. And I was just like, I'm done with them. I still got this ownership, but fuck this. And I've noticed that, but I started noticing that, whenever it was a smash mouth team, when they lost to Seattle that year in the NFC title game, right? Even though they lost on that crazy ass onside, they should have won that game, but they just got smashed. Seattle kind of just put it on them. like mentally and just physically dominated them towards the end to come back to get to that point.
In that Dez game, the Dez catch at Lambeau that they called not.
They got smashed in the mouth that game. They got smashed in the mouth, and they should have lost that game.
Should have lost that game.
I think that says a lot about Aaron Rodgers' company. Actually, speaking of Coward, he actually had a great thing on Aaron Rodgers' record when they trail in games. All right, well, it looks like we do have coming to the end here on your time with us, Taco Pablo. So thank you, of course, for coming in. We'll finish from here. Any last words before you head out?
No, thanks for having us. Highscore510.com. Also check me out at tacos.comida on Instagram. Yeah, man, thanks for having us.
All right. Catch you later, Ben.
All right, Brandon.
See, I'm worried now. That Brandon's gone. Jarrett might try to go for the next 3 hours.
No.
We're closing down. We got.
I'm worried. I'm just gonna let you know, Julian. I am sitting over here worried. I know how Jarrett works, and the minute that Brandon leaves the show, I'm like, shit. There's been times when we used to meet before the pandemic in person, and if Brandon had to leave early, I'm like, God dang, I'm in trouble.
Slumpbusters, I assure you, even though I know you love listening to my majestic voice, we will try and maintain the hours for your time and benefits. Unless you're on a long road trip, then it's perfect for you guys here.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see. Where were we? Okay, we're moving into the afternoon slate here. So we got Seattle at Arizona, 3.5-point favorites for Seattle. See, I'm leaning Cardinals. I'm leaning them. Because
Why? Why is that?
I feel as though when Seattle's defense, they do have leave a lot to be desired. And I feel as though with the Cardinals and what Kyler Murray is able to do, escape the pocket and everything like that, I think this is going to be one of those games where it's just going to be an absolute shootout. At least that's my thought process. I could be wrong. I have been wrong before. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, I do have to address it. And Arizona always kind of gives Seattle a hard time anyway. I don't know what it is. I guess, the division rival kind of thing always comes into play. And I feel as though that is why I could see Arizona being a problem for this Seattle Seahawks team, especially at a 3.5-point advantage or disadvantage there, plus 3.5. 83, where are you on this?
I know this. I do feel the same way as far as the games at the Cardinals. I feel the same way. The divisional games can always, sometimes when the opponents are closer and talent levels could be a toss-up, or sometimes even when they're not close. And but I just got a lot of faith in Russell Wilson, who didn't get an MVP vote, never got an MVP vote in his life. I'm excited to watch this one. This is when my NFL. Wait, what time is the Cowboy game in the morning?
Yes.
Oh, good. So I don't have to worry.
Don't worry, I ain't gonna watch it.
See, I got the NFL package, right, where I can watch in the game. But part of the deals is I traded a couple of streaming services with Jarrett. So when a Cowboy game is on, like if there's no other game that I'm super interested in, I'll let that's part of our deal. Jarrett uses the package in because you can't play more than one on one device at a time. So since Seattle's afternoon game, because I really want to see this one, Seattle, Kyler Murray. I'm with you. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think Kyler Murray struggled a little bit last game. I think he'll correct it. I think Cliff Kingsbury we'll see what he can really do. I'm just excited. I still got Seattle because of the Russell Wilson factor. He just has ice in his veins. D'Angelo Russell thought it was him, but it's really Russell Wilson that has it in his veins. Like even that last game when he won at the end, it was just, you just knew. You knew like if they get the ball back, they're going to win, right? And that's what happened. Who did they beat last game? I forgot who it was. Before
Seattle?
The bye week?
Seattle beat
their wins. They beat Dallas. They
came back against
the Patriots.
Vikings.
Vikings. There you go. Yeah.
It was the Vikings. Yeah. And that was another last second. Look, he threw a touchdown with no time left on the clock. It's just like on fourth down.
I think the pace is just ridiculous, though. His touchdown pace. Like, it has to be quelled a little bit. I don't know if that's against Arizona necessarily, if they're the right answer to stop him, but someone has to step in and kind of like shut it down. Because
I don't know if they got an answer
19
for
touchdowns through 5 weeks. It's
through
like,
5 weeks, and through 5 weeks, and I don't know if they got an answer for DK Metcalf. Yeah. I don't think Seattle has an answer. Patrick Peterson's a good cornerback. I think he's been a little overrated early in his career. People put his ceiling a lot higher than I think it really was. I think he did have a high ceiling, but he's really good. I don't think he can't cover multiple receivers at once. Budda Baker's great. Might be the best safety in baseball. Best safety in football this year. But I just see Russell just shooting it. This Seattle team is different from the rest. If this is going to be a shootout, it favors Seattle more than it's going to favor Arizona.
The whole hashtag Let Russ Cook has really taken off this year, and recent reports, breaking news. I was hesitant to drop this guy's name because when we first started the show, I swear our first 4 episodes were basically about this dude. But Antonio Brown is back in the headlines and reportedly thinking about going with the Seattle Seahawks. That is an interesting dynamic. And with DK Metcalf already on that team balling out, and Tyler Lockett, and oh my God. Antonio Brown, real quick before we move into the next game, Antonio Brown to the Seahawks. Jarrett, you want to talk about that one a little?
Yeah, sure.
That's great news for our show because we traffic in Antonio Brown news. so if he's back, then we got a whole nother Pandora's box of stuff to talk about. But just another tool for Russell Wilson to potentially use. And if, we were talking about, being a year off or a year away from the game, it's really whether or not Antonio Brown skill set and body can transition from not playing for basically over a year now to potentially come back in and being a contributor. But going to a place that they're 5-0, they have a culture, they have, everything. The way Russ goes is the way that team's going to go. Pete Carroll is going to do his thing. They have a kind of a smash mouth and just well-oiled machine going there that's been there and established for a while. Similar to the Patriots, I think that when he went there, he could have fit in. I think the Patriots realized they didn't want to deal with the headache of potentially the suspension also, so they let him go. So as long as he's clear of everything else, that's one of the few places that he can go and really, potentially revitalize his career and hopefully make an impact.
You look at what AB does well. AB, how he beats you, he's just faster than everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
When
he in and out his cuts.
When he hits those jets, he's gone. It's seriously like looking up a video game, how he just is weaving through and just the yards of separation. I think Tyreek Hill is fast, but AB was the standard for a lot of years when he was doing with the Steelers. So you mentioned will he still have that jump? Will he still have that step on guys coming off a year of being put on the shelf, not by his own volition? I think so, just because have you ever seen that guy's workout tapes?
Yes.
He's relentless. He's a monster. I think he can retain that quickness. He looks like he still has his body in shape and everything like that. So,
well, he was working out with. I saw the tape of him working out with Russell Wilson during the pandemic, and the thing that makes him like Tyreek Hill has pure speed, but what makes AB so well is just how fast he gets out of cuts and out of routes.
He's
smooth and fast, and it was just and the footwork's still there.
Yeah.
The footwork is still there.
It's crazy how the Steelers develop wide receivers.
Well,
it's just insane.
And he's been so good with Lockett, who's an undersized receiver that's top speed type guy, beat you down the field. So if you give him a DK Metcalf and then 2 guys who can – you have basically 3 guys who can take the top off and one who's big enough to go across the middle and do some of those intermediate routes, and the other one who's made his career, doing those intermediate routes and the deep routes in AB, that would be – a very, very formidable monster to go up against any team for the rest of the season. So I think it would be. I personally want to see AB. I don't want to see that brother fizzle out and end up just being a lost cause. Granted, the stuff he does is ignorant and sometimes hilarious, but also kind of sad. But yeah, I want to see if he can, find some redemption, take care of his personal life, get that stuff in order. Hopefully he has been doing that and make sure that he's living his best life and not some of the ignorant stuff that we've been hearing about last year. But more or less, if he can redeem himself and continue his career, I'm not mad at him. I think a lot of these players in the spotlight, it's really easy to get, cast aside and then never recover. So I'm hoping that he at least has some form of redemption. But yeah, man, I think Seattle. I think the Seattle-Arizona game could look a lot like that Seattle Texans game a few years ago when Deshaun Jackson made his kind of coming out party against Russ, and it was like that shootout. So I would be down to see a game like that this weekend.
Okay, I look forward to that. The next one up, quick analysis. We'll move past this real quick because we're all pretty unison on KC. KC over Denver. The last time Denver was able to beat KC, they had Peyton Manning as their quarterback. So. Not that much analysis there. They are 9.5-point dogs. San Francisco at the New England Patriots. Obviously, Niners had a big win this past Sunday against the Rams, reasserted that they still have that championship, that playoff level team inside them. However, the big problem with the Niners has been injury. Nick Bosa being out. You could tell this is not the same team. Richard Sherman's not going to be suiting up for this one either. The Patriots, they lost to that Denver Broncos team that I so quickly dismiss in New England. And I feel as though one of the scariest teams coming off a loss is a Bill Belichick coached team. And that's why I have my concerns about my Niners heading into Foxborough. I still think they're the better team on paper. That's why I'm going to pick them. However, I would not be upset if any of you guys pick the Patriots, given how well I think of Coach Belichick.
Go ahead, Jarrett.
No, you go ahead.
I was saying, I agree with you. I certainly, Bill Belichick coming off a loss in which they couldn't practice because of the COVID, and they had to shut down. And and Belichick, what I like about him is that he's never been one to make excuse. I don't like that he might not do an interview after a loss, right? Because he's so angry, but he doesn't make excuses, and that's part of it, which shocked me in the Denver one because he kind of made an excuse. You know, he said we were unable to practice. Like, he kept sticking to that. He's real quick to go with that. It's like 90 seconds into that post-game interview, he goes to the practice thing. So I bet you he has broken this film down. All the gadget plays that Shanahan run, which are great-looking gadget plays, but they are gadget plays. You know, all the handoffs to wide receivers. I could just see it not working this week. And if anybody knows Jimmy Garoppolo is definitely Bill Belichick. And the one thing he would tailor a game plan around your weaknesses. And so, yeah, the Niners might be in trouble this week.
Yeah. I think the Niners have, I'm kind of on two sides. I was like, yeah, like what Aaron's saying, like Belichick, and I know Brandon thinks that Belichick's going to come out and they're going to put it on the Niners. But I think that, you have to look at the other coach in Shanahan. I think Shanahan has a nasty flavor in his mouth from that Super Bowl when he was the O coordinator for Atlanta, and he's going to come out with something to prove. So I can see the Niners, having a really wide open playbook and trying to do all the misdirection and stuff that he can do. And as long as it's not in Garoppolo's hands to make every throw down the field at the end of the game, I can see the Niners coming out with this win, because even with a depleted defense, the Patriots with a new quarterback, the Patriots with some new pieces and less practice, they're still not running 100% on offense. So I think that the margin for error is bigger for the Niners, and I think that Kyle Shanahan has something that he kind of wants to get off his chest from a couple seasons ago with that Super Bowl loss.
Yeah, every loss moving forward for the Niners, or every game I should say, is must win at this point. It's equally to the Patriots. You can't afford to continue to fall in that division. They'd only be at risk of going 2-4, and you do have the Bills only sitting at 4-2, but I don't want to fall behind the Bills that often. And I think it just makes their road that much tougher to get back to the playoffs. So this is going to be a tough game. This is going to be one of the better games in the afternoon to look at forward to. So nice little warm up in between games here, but the last Sunday afternoon game to talk about is going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Los Angeles Chargers. As far as that goes, I'm got the Chargers winning here. I don't feel good about that because the Chargers have a horrible reputation about playing down to their competition. But Justin Herbert, this man has outplayed Tom Brady. He's outplayed Drew Brees, and he's outplayed Patrick Mahomes over his three of his four starts. He lost to Teddy Bridgewater oddly in between there, but I am impressed what I've been seeing from him, and I don't see how the Jacksonville Jaguars should pose any issues to them at all. So I'm going with the Chargers. Any disagreements?
No. Only disagreement is that you keep calling Los Angeles Chargers and not San Diego Chargers, who they should be with their.
Hey, is Gardner Minshew? Do they get points for Gardner Minshew's hairstyle and facial hair?
They should. They should get exactly 69 points for Gardner Minshew's facial.
He's like, man, we got a 69-point handicap. We good.
Exactly. All the Vegas lines moving forward. Minus 69. Jacksonville Jaguars. Bank it. Okay, Sunday night. Tampa Bay, Las Vegas Raiders. This will actually be the Raiders' second primetime game this year. They played Monday Night Football week 2, and obviously they've gotten some big wins. The Raiders are coming off a huge win the previous week before the bye against the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that has owned them. Andy Reid used to just dial up wheel routes to Jamal Charles against this team just to spank them, and they managed to get that big victory. They beat in the Saints this year, and they hold strong against a Tampa team that yes, they're good, and we know they're good. Obviously, they beat the shit out of the Packers the previous week, but they've also lost to the Bears the week before that. I think this team's a little bit more inconsistent than we like to think when we talk about like a Tom Brady, when we talk about all the pieces that they have. The only reason I give them the edge against the Raiders is because as good as the Raiders defense played against the Chiefs, that is not typical for the Raiders defense. The Raiders defense usually can't, stop anything. So I'm going to go with the Bucks on the road, 3.5-point favorites. Any disagreements, gentlemen?
I don't disagree. I'll go before Jarrett speaks about the Raiders. I agree with everything you said. The Raiders, they'll be fighting for that last 7-seed playoff spot. They might even get the 6th seed. Who knows? But I think they'll beat a couple good football teams like they did Tampa Bay in Kansas City. They might have one more top game to win, but that's basically they got some weapons. They're not bad, but I don't see them winning this.
Is Derek Carr still playing quarterback for the Raiders?
I knew he was going to ask that.
That he is.
Is Derek Carr's offensive line potentially in flux because of coronavirus?
From what I'm told, yes.
Even if they weren't in flux because of corona, it's still Derek Carr playing quarterback. And Derek Carr is going Derek Carr. Like I said earlier, in the immortal words of Denny Green, he is who we thought he was. Okay, so Derek Carr is a guy that, he going to make some nice throws here and there. He's going to have decent games here and there, but he will come back down to earth. And against the Tampa front seven that made Aaron Rodgers look pedestrian, what you think they're going to do to Derek Carr? That's all I'm going to say, so. Yeah.
Todd Bowles, he definitely has to dial up those blitzes.
Yeah, I do worry about Tampa Bay being up for it. Like as far as with the Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay, they really got themselves up. I think Tom Brady's learning that the Patriot way doesn't extend past Boston once you leave that New England area, right? Because, he's down in Tampa. They're a little loosey-goosey. They're a little hopefully they could consistently keep it up.
Yeah, it's a huge culture change when you're talking about a guy who won 6 Super Bowls going to a team that hadn't been to the playoffs in over a decade.
Yeah.
I think that there is definitely that transition period, but this should be a good win for the Buccaneers. They just need to take advantage of that Oakland Raiders defense, and that's a defense you should be able to take advantage of. They have all their pieces back, too. I mean, Leonard Fournette should be back by this game. Godwin's back. Mike Evans is back. They got all the pieces there.
Gronkowski got a touchdown last week.
Gronk got a touchdown, exactly. I believe that touchdown was worth 69 points.
69, baby. The bodies. I like the women's bodies. Busted slumps.
Okay. Monday night. This will close it out, folks.
Okay.
Bears, Rams. The Bears are – my God, this team is 5-1. And I don't think anyone around football can explain it. I mean, their defense is back to the levels that their defense should have been last year. But on offense, you just don't feel good when they're out there on the field. Whether it's Nick Foles, Trubisky, any of us at starter, it just doesn't feel like a productive NFL offense. And yet they've just been doing enough to get these wins. It's not like they're just beating scrubs anymore. You can say Carolina's a good team. You can say that definitely the Buccaneers are a good team. I don't know what to make of the Chicago Bears. At the same time, I don't know what to make of the Rams. The Rams just lost a game they should have won against the Niners, and I'll admit that. The Niners, the week prior, were starting their 5th-string cornerback, and a offense comprised of Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Gerald Everett. All these guys weren't able to put up more than, I believe, 16 points against them?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's and all of the Rams wins have come against the NFC
East. NFC East.
So
it's the best league.
So it's kind of like playing a game of Among Us when we watch these teams, because we're trying to figure out which one of these two teams is the imposter here. Mm-hmm. Who would you vote off the ship between these two?
I'll vote off the Bears. Nick Foles have shown for some reason, I don't have it statistically. I need to call up Daryl Morey to get the statistics. But I know this for a fact that Nick Foles, when he is starting a job as quarterback, He doesn't, and I remember when he was with the Rams, he doesn't do well starting. He does better when he comes off the bench. He does better coming in later. He does better end of the years as a starting quarterback. Like, for some reason, when he has to take over a team in the beginning, getting all the reps, and he's the man, he seems to not, like, do well under that pressure. Like, remember his best year in Philly was off of an injury. Who was the starting quarterback that year?
Carson Wentz got hurt.
Yeah, when he won. But even before he left the first time, right? Yeah, second time Carson Wentz gets hurt. He starts the last few games, wins, going to playoffs with the Super Bowl. Remember his first go around in Philly? Wasn't he behind Kevin Kolb or somebody? He was behind someone.
He was behind
Michael
somebody.
Vick.
He played well.
Yeah, he was behind Michael Vick. Vick got hurt, didn't play well, and got hurt. And then he came in, no pressure on him, does well. He does better when they're not expected to win, and he's not expected to be the person and be that guy. And in Chicago, I think, like, if I was him, when they first announced after he came in and won that game, I was like, okay, that's what Nick Foles does. He comes in, Trubisky plays like crap. That's what Trubisky does. And then Nick Foles comes in and wins. And then they were like, immediately that week, they're like, Nick Foles our starter going forward. And I was like, no, he should be, but that's not going to help you win. Like,
yeah, you need Nick Foles. You need him to not have the pressure of being the starting quarterback.
You know what you do? You lose a few more games with Trubisky. You win a couple, win a few more. You get to a point where you have a chance to make it as a 7th or 6th seed. Then you throw in Nick Foles and be like, hey, man, don't worry. We'll be lucky to make the playoffs. And then he'll come out and play.
The problem is now, like, the Bears are going to be like a playoff team, so they're not going to be in a position to draft a high-end quarterback. They're going to have to trade back into the first round to make something special happen because they're in a unique position where their championship window and all the teams that rely on their defense, you want a quarterback that can put you over the top. Obviously, we don't expect Nick Foles to be that guy, and clearly Mitch Trubisky wasn't that guy.
You might find that later on in the draft, though. I mean, look at Seattle. Russell Wilson was third round.
You have to get lucky, though, and you have to have the right scouting. Do we believe the Bears have the right scouting, especially at quarterback? Their scouting department told them that Mitch Trubisky was better than Deshaun Watson.
And Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes.
Here's the thing. I will always give them a pass on Patrick Mahomes just because if you actually throw on Patrick Mahomes' Texas Tech highlights,
I remember,
it's a little like...
I mean, he had the numbers, though. I mean...
He had the numbers.
But he was a starter more than 1 year. To Trubisky, when I couldn't understand when he was getting all the hype. I was this is Mel Kiper hype, right? This is Mel Kiper hype. Like, I was like, at least Patrick Mahomes, to me, had a little bit of a pedigree. Like, let's not act like he came out of Texas Tech and became who he is now. That 1 year did him a lot of good.
I think having Andy Reid as his first coach,
it
served his career a lot better because they were able to work out some of the mechanical flaws that you look at in his
that you saw. Yeah, he was a little mechanically flawed. Now, but I always assume you got to do that with every quarterback.
The reason, though, I hold Deshaun against them more is because Deshaun and Mitch Trubisky literally played in the same conference. They're both ACC quarterbacks. They had a head-to-head matchup. And that means that someone from the Chicago Bears scouting department was in the stands watching both Deshaun Watson and Mitch Trubisky on the same football field and said, Mitch is our guy.
And Deshaun Watson won the national championship.
Won the national title later that year.
That's against Alabama. It didn't make sense. He balled out. Yeah, that one. You're right. I do hold that a little bit more, but it was still a horrible draft.
Yeah, so that's the point. With the Bears, I don't trust that they can go out there and get a quarterback in the draft unless they're just put in a position where they have to take one of these guys. And that's concerning. That is concerning for them. At the same time, I'm actually going to go against you here, and I am going to pick the Bears to win this one. And why I'm going to do that is because I believe Jared Goff's a statue. He's not a very mobile quarterback, and when we watched the Bears versus the Rams a couple years ago, this came into play as well. The Bears still can generate a pass rush. They still can get up on you. And I don't think that is necessarily a good game script for the Rams, for Jared Goff. And as much as it's a tough one, especially if I'm going against the Vegas lines, because Vegas has the Rams as 6-point favorites, I'm taking the Bears. And I'm thinking I'm going to just take the Bears to win the game here.
Yeah.
Tiebreaker here, Jarrett?
I have to go with the Bears because I feel like part of what the Bears do is, they play – they still have the remnants of Vic Fangio's defense. They have a fast linebacking core that plays fast and aggressive. They create that pressure. Granted, the Rams are going to do their best to try and make it easy and quick, that fake sweep and stuff to slow down that pass rush. But I think that the teams that are well coached defensively and have elite talent and coaching, usually aren't overly fooled, unlike the Dallas Cowboys, who are just fooled left and right every time they do that fake sweep and stuff like that. Anyways, but I think, Nick Foles playing with house money will allow him just to make enough space to get the ball down the field, and the Rams are still kind of working through this high-powered offense that you expect them to have. Is still working through a lot of kinks, and I think a big part of it is because Jared Goff, like you said, is a statue. He hasn't developed his ability to read at the line on his own. He hasn't developed his ability to scan the field on his own. He's been caught up in coaching coaches that want to have all the say on what he does, even back to his college days at UC Berkeley at Cal. Aaron is a Cal alum, and we both I grew up around Cal, so I've been a fan, a partial fan of Cal. And Jared Goff was the number 1 pro-style quarterback coming out of high school, went to go under Jeff Tedford. Jeff Tedford got fired. They bring in Sonny Dykes, who was running a bootleg version of Chip Kelly's offense, and all it was look at the sideline, read the cards with all the pictures on it, and that tells you who to throw it to on this piece.
No, all he had to do, he just had to read the safety. Yeah, it was a read option RPO with one safety read his whole career. But I think part of that is it's on him though.
Yeah, the majority of his throws, though, were not more than 2 yards off the line of scrimmage in college. And in the NFL, the majority of his throws are not using his arm talent, which is those down-the-field throws, down the seams, down the sidelines, which he showed he has a great ability to do. His arm talent is putting the ball down the window in seams and in windows down the field. If they don't do that as much as they could and allow him to develop into that, maybe he doesn't have the mentality to develop into that. But, I think right now at this point, Nick Foles has better touch down the field and can see the field better and will make more plays when needed than Jared Goff will. And that D is good.
I think we'll see because Chicago's missing some of their weapons. Tariq Cohen was a big weapon for him.
They got Cordell Patterson, though, bro.
Come on, man. Come on. Cordell Patterson.
Oh, you ain't seen it. Cordell Patterson line up in the backfield because they've been having him as a running back, too.
He
ran a wheel route.
We're back to those days now. We're back to those gimmicks.
He ran a wheel route I
tell you this. Jared Goff, the problem I had was he was making those throws against San Francisco and throwing it to the wrong receiver's shoulders. He didn't look good. And I think part of it is I'm not going to put it all on coaching. Part of it is on him. I don't know if he has the mental, he doesn't seem to me, especially even after watching Hard Knocks, he's not like one of those people who are like, I think he's gotten by on natural ability to throw the damn ball his whole life. Being the size he is, having an arm that he was given, he has that natural ability. Whereas I think like you see other quarterbacks who also have that natural ability, but go in and do the homework. I don't think Jared Goff is one of those people.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, that's going to close it out for NFL Week 7. We'll see who's right, who's wrong. But if you listen to this podcast, you are making the right decision in your life. You're making good decisions, guys. Okay. Final question for you gentlemen. We always ask our guests this. Favorite all-time sports movie? Go.
Oh, man. It's a toss-up. I'm going to not say it's a toss-up. It's a toss-up between The Replacements and Little Giants.
Little Giants is great.
Little Giants is tight. Except the Cowboys lost. That was the only problem with that movie.
So we got an agreement. Little Giants we're going with here. I like it. That's a new option, the new one that's been thrown out. And wasn't Rick Moranis in it, the old Ghostbusters?
The Little Giants.
Yeah.
He was the Icebox Dad.
Bringing back the 80s movies here. I dig it, guys. I like it. Okay, now the next mission here. Tell people where to listen, where to follow, how to find you, all that good stuff. Educate the people.
All right. Yeah, you can catch us at HighScore510 on Instagram. We've been suspended briefly by Twitter for, various reasons. We're working on it, but yeah, at HighScore510 on Twitter, but we're suspended from there. But Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, we're starting to build out, but then also HighScore510.com. And we also we've created a Patreon page. We are going to be putting out bonus content and featured conversations on our Patreon. So if you go to Patreon and it's /HighScore510, you can find us there and hear some of our featured content. But otherwise, if you want to just listen to our show, any streaming platform, iTunes, Podbean, Google Play, all the different podcast platforms, you can catch us on there and listen to our show. We come out every Friday with a new episode, and we love to just cover the storylines and the interstitial stories of sports and society, and we like to have a good laugh and kind of just call in the parody of life and sports. So yeah.
All right. Well, we thank you guys so much for joining us.
I had a question for you at Slumpbuster.
Yes, sir. Go for it.
When I was, and this has been a little gripe I had. Man, I was checking out your website and your, what do you call it? Your symbol, your background, your logo. right? Your logo,
Okay.
your Slumpbuster logo. Like, I mean, you got like the Charlie Sheen 1990s Slumpbuster logo, man. That's not like, I'm looking at that. I'm like, man, I thought it was a Slumpbuster, man. That logo, that silhouette looks pretty good looking, right? Like, I mean, we talking about Charlie Sheen 90s or, you know, or Eddie Murphy during the late 80s, like Slumpbuster. Like, man, none of my Slumpbusters look like that.
Like, where do you find her?
Where do you find her as a Slumpbuster, man? My Slumpbusters don't look like that. I mean, maybe, you know, man, that's a hell of a Slumpbuster. That's why I had to ask, what state are you in, man? I got to come out there and find my Slumpbusters because this pandemic, you got the better Slumpbusters right now.
Well, Austin, Texas. So Texas residents. I mean, we had to obviously import a lot from California over here, but
yeah,
I would say the average ratio on Slumpbuster tier or not, fantastic ratios, definitely worth it. As far as the mascot itself, definitely had to give some of the curve appeal here, you know.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to understand there is multiple ways to bust the slump, guys. Now, when you're just driving in your car, you're going on podcasts, you're selecting which one do you want to listen to. Now, I would say that's the perfect time to bust the slump. Get through the midday week, you know, and that's our one message in life. That's one thing we've stayed consistent on as a podcast, as a sports media company, and we will continue to do that, whether it be through dank memes, dank shows, or dank sponsorships, because of course, Nature's Relief, check them out from Code Slump. So that's going to put a close to the show, gentlemen. But all right, thank you guys for coming on. For us, go ahead, at Slumpbuster Podcast on IG, at Slumpbuster Pod on Twitter. Go ahead and use promo code Slump at Nature's Relief, at Manscaped.com. Check out Razor Sport, R-A-Z-E-R, sport.com. Caveman Coffee, all fantastic companies for you. Leave us a review, leave us a subscription, and most importantly, folks, we want you to stay safe, happy, and healthy, and we'll see you on the next one.